Riding Side Saddle. It's Lisa.
And Tammy.
And Marcy.
Hey, Marcy's back.
Hey, it's been a really long time.
It has been way too long.
So long. Your hair looks fucking spectacular.
Marcy has a new
Thank
hairdo
you.
since we last saw her. And it's super cute.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
a fun, sassy
very
little
good.
pixie cut. It's super cute.
I love it.
Sassy. Yeah.
Spunky.
It is
Sassy for
spunky.
the season.
There
Yes.
you go. There you go.
Yes. So welcome back to the recording studio, Marcy. We've missed you a great deal.
We sure have.
I've missed you guys too. Although I feel close to you when I listen, but it's not the same. I'm happy to be in the studio, in Studio B.
Studio B. Yeah, because
Studio
we're not in Lisa's Jeep today. We had to move location.
Fair enough.
Yeah, to Studio B.
Yeah, love it, love it.
All right. Well, we're in season 7.
Yep.
Episode 2. We had mentioned during the end of season 6 that we started. Tammy opened a whole can of worms.
Yeah, I might have.
A fucking enormous can of worms
It hit me hard that day.
with relation to reactions.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit about the different types of, categories of reaction.
Fight,
and
flight.
flight, which is very familiar to most people. But
Sure.
there's also fawn
Yep. And
freeze.
Right.
Types of reactions. And from a reaction perspective, it's that automatic response. It is something that you don't think about. And when you're in the face of stress.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it was. It actually came to mind. Well, it didn't come to mind. It came
had a
to my
situation.
attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there had been a couple of things, and then one bigger thing where I was like, "Oh, yeah, I've been doing that." I didn't realize the couple smaller things that's what I had been doing, but then a big incident arose, and I was put on the spot by somebody I didn't even know, and that's when I realized, oh, not only am I doing that here, I'm fawning and freezing at the same time, but I did that in the last couple of arguments I've had. Oh. This is my pattern. This is what I do.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you moved into a place of observation, actually,
I
whether you
did.
realized it or not, or
Yeah,
reflection,
I did.
perhaps.
I absolutely did.
Yeah.
And at that same time, I also realized that while I'm freezing and fawning, I am tucking things away. I don't like the way you're treating me right now, but I'm not going to address it now. I'll wait till another time. And then I'll do that a couple, 3, 4, 5 times,
Tuck it
however
away.
many times. Yeah. It's not worth really making a big deal of it now, but I don't really like this. But I don't want to make waves.
Maybe the situation's not appropriate.
Yeah, or
maybe
maybe
we're in front of
yes.
people.
Right.
Or,
Yes.
right.
Maybe
The
I don't have
environment
all the
isn't
words
great.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah. You haven't thought through all your feelings.
Exactly. This is bothering me, and I don't really know why, because on the surface it maybe doesn't seem that bad, but it is not feeling so great with me. But I'm going to wait till you do it again, and then I'm going to let you have it. But not just for what you said in the next time, for all of the times you've said or done something that I didn't like. I'm hanging on to all of it so I can spring a trap.
So you're gathering it all together.
Absolutely. And I
holding on
didn't
to
realize
Yeah.
that's what I was doing. So it would be like if I don't know, every time I said hi, I slapped you. Like I just, gave you a little smack. Hey, how you doing, friend? How you doing? And you're like, I really don't like when she hits me. But I don't know you don't like it.
Right.
I think I'm being fun and friendly and outgoing and
This
engaging.
is how I do it.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
my very best of friends.
Exactly. I
Right,
give you
right.
just a little, little backhanded smack on your shoulder. And one day you're like, hit me again. Hit me again and see what happens.
That's me. I'm gonna point right at you.
I know. I've seen your pointer finger.
Fuck around and find out.
That.
Right.
And I'm taken aback. Like, why are you mad? What happened? I always do this. And you're like, yeah, I know. And I'm sick and tired of it.
Right.
You set a trap for me. I didn't know that bothered you. I thought I was being friendly. I thought that was like some sort of connection. And you're like, I don't like it. But you didn't tell me you didn't like it. That's what I had been doing with people in my life, namely my husband. You say that, and I don't like it, but I don't tell you I don't like it. You do that, but I don't tell you I don't like it. So you don't know that I don't like it, so you don't change your behavior, so you keep doing it, and now I'm mad.
So
Right.
I have to be Tammy's devil's advocate
Fine.
here.
Ooh, okay.
Fine.
Because, I know you've painted this picture and you've told the story and it's like very tucked in on the edges and there's nothing sticking out. Like you've got this pretty laid out nicely.
Okay, all right.
As a story. So and that's fair. Like I get it. Like it's good observation and it's good reflection to be able to, understand how maybe you had inadvertently done this and didn't realize it. Or
Right.
maybe it was a pattern that you didn't know
sure.
existed. But as your devil's advocate, sometimes it takes a little bit.
Sure.
It just takes a little bit to process it and to figure it out. So in the moment, maybe, like for me, my reaction would be like, ooh, my back got really hot. I know I didn't like something, but I don't entirely understand why or what.
I think you also need to give yourself time to think about how it's serving you. How was your decision not to respond serving you?
Yes.
How was it serving you to actively collect these situations? And then how was it serving you when you did react?
So I would agree with both of those things. In the moment, though, when I know that I don't like this, I am either afraid to speak up, I just don't want to bother with it today, I am not in a mood to deal with it, and I tuck it away. I don't want to deal with this right now, but next time I will.
So
And then next-
it's your
so
motivation behind
I
why
already
you're
know
doing
that
it.
I'm upset about it, and
you've worked through it.
I may know why I'm upset, right?
Okay.
Right.
Or maybe I don't, but the next day or, a couple days later, I'm like, oh, yeah,
Now I get it.
now I get it. And I don't bring it up in a neutral sort of way. Do you remember when you said that? We were talking the other day and you said that. I actually didn't like that very much. And here's why. That is a very different conversation than you say something very similar again that triggers that same thing.
And a
And then
bomb
I'm
goes
like,
off.
that's it.
Okay.
You keep doing this and I am tired and this isn't okay. And now that, right, a bomb goes off.
Yeah.
Now you're instantly in defense mode because I'm attacking, right? Like
Right.
I've
And
gone
now-
big and now you've gone big and now we've got a big fight.
And not only
Rather-
are you attacking and going big on one, but you're attacking and going big on
For the
3 or
last-
4 that I didn't
yes.
even fucking
I didn't-
know.
But the
Yes.
reality is you're also going big and attacking because you didn't react and respond
Yes.
in those previous moments.
Exactly.
So
Right.
it's
Yes.
on yourself.
Yes.
Culminating, right?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's getting bigger.
These are multiple bombs that all now just went off at once. And so if again, I'll use the example. Every time I see you, I smack your shoulder. I think I'm being fun and engaging, and you're like, I can't stand it when she does that. But I also don't want to tell her that. Until one day I catch you at the wrong moment and I come up and I smack your shoulder and say hi, and then you're like, that's it. That's it. Touch me again, bitch, and see what happens.
Ooh, the finger
Right?
just
Yeah.
came up.
That
right?
finger.
But that's
That
what
was-
happens,
That was
right?
spicy.
It
was
is what
spicy.
happens. And I think that in that situation, and I can completely relate, I think my response after taking it,
Right.
right? It's about
Yeah.
I am
Yes.
mad at myself
Yes.
for taking it.
Yes.
And so my response in that moment is, as we know, about so much more than the action or the situation
Yes.
at hand. But it's also more than about the person I'm reacting to.
Absolutely.
It is about me.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I let you touch me in a way that I didn't like, and I didn't speak up.
Right.
I let you speak to me in a way that I didn't like, and I didn't speak up.
And I'm mad at me for
And
that.
I'm mad at
I'm
me.
mad at me.
Right.
And now you did it again because somehow, maybe even in this very toxic way, I thought you should just figure that out. You should know that what you said was inappropriate and you'll self-correct, so I won't have to do it for you. Because this is the other thing that I struggle with is I'm not in charge of everybody's behavior. It is not my job to monitor what everybody is or isn't doing. So when somebody keeps doing something to me, I feel like you should know what you're doing. I use my words very carefully. You should too. So now I'm expecting you to behave like me, to think
Right.
like me, to
Right.
feel like me.
Right.
That's not fair. That's a whole nother level of unfairness.
What you're expecting is that somebody holds up a boundary that you've placed but didn't tell them
Yeah.
about.
And maybe didn't actually place.
Yeah.
But should
you
have
did,
placed.
Well, you did place it in your own mind because you know what you like and what you don't like, but you didn't necessarily communicate
Exactly.
that.
So then the
Right.
boundary's not placed.
Right.
I may
right.
have a boundary, but
Right.
I'm holding it. That's tucked in my pocket too.
Right.
I didn't tell you that hurts my feelings when you say that, or that makes me feel
XYZ.
whatever.
Right.
Right.
Please don't do that again. Right.
So when
then
we're
when
thinking about our reactions in these situations and fight or flight or fawn or freeze, how does that play into your reaction?
So first I fawn, right? Pretend it's not happening. It's fine. It's fine. That was really not that big a deal. I'm not going to make a big deal. It feels like a big deal, but I'm not going to make it a big deal. It's okay. We'll be fine. We'll be fawning. Or, so that happens, a time or two. Then I freeze.
I don't like this.
I don't like
but-
it, and I don't know how to say I don't like it. I'm just not going to say anything. I'm frozen.
Yep.
Start a little, removing myself, a little disassociation. We had talked about that.
Withdrawing.
Yep.
Maybe a little silence.
Yep.
And
Right.
now you
Little
have to try to
numb.
figure out what's going on.
Yep.
as-
And then, then the other person will be like, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." "Yep, just fine." "You don't seem fine." "Well, I am." "Okay." That sort of thing, right? The
yep.
freeze state. Then I get to fight. After that happens, and whatever the trigger is happens again, that's it.
Right. Then
That's
you're done.
it. Right.
the finger comes out.
Finger comes out. Yeah, right.
Fuck
Right.
around and find out comes out. You did fuck around. Now you're
gonna
gonna find out.
Only you didn't even know,
Right.
right? You didn't know that when you do that, that is really offensive to me, or it really hurts my feelings, or whatever the case is, right?
Right.
Because I didn't tell you, and now you feel like the world's biggest a-hole because you've been doing this all this time and hurting my feelings all this time, and you didn't even know because I didn't tell you. All of this rolls into people-pleasing too,
It does.
which is something else I really think we should talk about on a future episode, because that honestly, that's like
It
at the
is.
crux of it,
It
right?
is. It is.
Let's drip into it, right? I am not allowed to feel or express or
Right.
I'm not allowed to make waves. Do you remember way back, Tam, at some of our original snacks, like before we even started the episodes?
Yeah.
And you talked about it, the vision is coming back to me. You said you were a duck on a pond.
Yeah.
And on the surface, man, you were slick and smooth
sure.
and barely
Not a ripple to be seen.
barely, right.
Yep.
But underneath, you were
Paddling like
swimming
hell.
like crazy, right?
Yep.
And that's a lot. That's a really good analogy or a visual of people pleasing too, right?
Absolutely.
Like I feel a whole bunch of things.
Yep.
Like I'm a human. I have feelings. I have emotions. Maybe you stepped on a boundary that I secretly feel like I should be able to have, but haven't been able to express. And underneath, there is there's a lot going on under there.
Right.
On the surface, though,
Nobody knows.
I can't.
Right.
I'm not supposed to. It
Right.
is bad
Absolutely.
if I communicate that something has ruffled my feathers.
For sure. For sure. One of the things that coworkers have said to me more than once in the past, like, you never get stressed out.
I get that too.
I get that too. You're
I
so
do.
calm.
You're so calm.
Yes.
Not fucking
even in the
calm.
middle of
Yep.
in the middle of a storm, you are so calm. I'm
Nope.
like, yeah, that's on the outside.
Yes.
On the inside, it's a whole different game.
Agree.
Agreed.
Right.
What in the world? I don't feel calm.
No.
Not in any sort of way.
I like
But I
working with
think-
you because when I get stressed, you don't.
Well-
so that then I feel like you help balance me.
So I think
No.
what's really interesting though is that it's a it's kind of a superpower. so thinking of the Wonder Twins, yes. I'm just gonna bring them in, but really
Ice cube under the refrigerator?
Yes.
Really?
This might just be the big iceberg. But I do think that there is something to that. So again, when you think about those responses, and it's not always people pleasing, because I will be realistic. Sometimes it is self-serving. So when I think about that demeanor and that maybe that calm above the water, and yes, there is definitely lots of kicking going on underneath, but it is self-serving. I don't, if I were to respond as others respond, I would probably continue to escalate in a way that doesn't feel good to me. So by remaining what feels honestly kind of normal to me, I don't know about you guys, but when you're in some of those situations and everyone is reacting and externally working through whatever the situation is in a work situation, that feels very chaotic to me and out of control. And so it's self-serving for me to remain
In control.
in control. And it is a superpower to so many other people because they don't. They really don't. The more and more, I work with other individuals and in a number of companies over the years, and I really think about it, it is a superpower. And it isn't only, I'm not saying there isn't a big portion of it that is people-pleasing, but it is not only people-pleasing. It is also self-serving.
I'd agree with that.
I would too.
Especially in work situations. I feel like I'm more in control of myself in work situations, or
for
more
sure.
detached. Kind of like, you can't really ruffle me that much about work things.
Right.
It's my job, and we're going to get to a conclusion or work our way to, a goal. But
Also, you can't just go screaming at coworkers.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, I don't-
exactly.
HR will be knocking on your door in a
right,
quick minute.
Right.
Exactly.
The requirements or the external environment is different. However, that does not apply
To
when
personal.
Right, to personal.
Right.
In those very close-knit
Yeah, for
relationships where it will cause you to react
Rather
me.
than respond.
Right. For me specifically,
Sure.
I don't have that same detached perspective
Fawn and
unless I'm deliberate about it. I have to be extraordinarily deliberate, and then I can do it. Or perhaps I've gotten so far down the reaction phase, and then I'm like, time out. I need to take this back and figure out where I stand with it, because I don't like where this is going. And then I can be really detached, but that's really hard. It's really hard.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. I think that I completely agree with you. And I think that I am able to stay detached in a lot of situations. Personally, even personally.
I think you are probably, of the three of us, the one who's able to say most detached.
Probably. And it's...
But that isn't always the greatest thing either.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming that it is like a good thing. It's interesting, right? Like I think about the times and why and why do I respond in that way? And again, I think a lot of it is self-serving. It is protection.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it has served me, and I wouldn't say that I regret it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's not that I harbor as much. I don't necessarily harbor. I have a long memory, but I'm not necessarily always pulling it out.
You don't tuck it away.
I don't tuck it away.
Save it to bring it up another time. I'll address this the next time it happens.
But I will tell you that and I've had situations in my life, and I was talking with someone else about this recently, where I may not bring it back up, but I remember, and if and when the time is we're done.
Yeah.
And I'm not going
it helps you flip the switch.
I'm not going to tell you why. Yeah,
Oh.
like it's not even worth. I'm not going to go back in my pocket and pull all that stuff out. It's there.
You know
it.
You use it for cutting those ties. These are the reasons why this is.
But I don't share it.
Yeah, right.
Only
It's
internally.
for you.
It's just
Right.
for me. And so that's a very interesting awareness. And again, I will say that in my early, when I was younger, I didn't recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And now as I'm older, I recognize it and can and have chosen to respond differently, right? With the wisdom that comes with maturity.
Age.
Oh, maturity. Lisa, it's maturity. Just telling
That's funny.
you. Yeah.
That, gosh, I can't say that I've never just cut someone off without telling them why, because I have.
Yeah.
And when I look back on it, I think that was really probably unfair. And if they had done that to me, I probably wouldn't like it. But then I also think, well, but they could contact me.
Right.
Or maybe they did contact me, and I flop back and forth, right? They contacted me, I didn't go to the thing they invited me to or whatever. I don't know. I feel like the older I get, the more I have to tell someone that that thing that just happened, I'm really not okay with that. I feel like I've been an exceptionally good friend to you,
Right.
but it's one-sided, and that doesn't feel very good. I've not had that kind of conversation when I probably should have. I feel like I am more apt to just sort of like disappear in the background because I have a habit of doing that anyway. But in my very close relationships, people I don't want to let go of, I would be more apt to say, so when this happened,
Right.
it hurt my feelings.
Right.
With my poor husband, I'm more apt to be like, let me tuck that away so I can explode later.
Yeah.
And so I'm really trying to work on not letting it get to that explosion phase, right? Like, even if it is a couple of days later, I really don't want to have this conversation, but this is really bothering me, and I know it's going to happen again.
Right.
So if I say it now, maybe we don't have to keep doing that.
Right.
And
I think
in that kind of loving space where it's more of a,
Right.
I know you don't realize that this was hurtful to me, but it was, and so I just want to talk about it. That is more well received than an explosion.
Well, because you don't
Right.
feel like you have to defend yourself for something you had no idea was
For
even
sure.
a
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
To someone who is visibly angry with
Right,
you.
right,
Right. And I think you hit on something, and it's, it's the respect that you're giving the other person by saying, in this situation, I felt
Right.
this is what it felt like to me.
Right.
It may not be what you meant or how you intended for it to be received,
Sure.
but in that situation, this is how it felt to
Right.
me.
Right. I've noticed with Josh, he really does not try to hurt my feelings, right? He's not
Right.
trying to be rude or dismissive or whatever. But sometimes I perceive things that way.
Right.
And so
I do that too.
when I say to him, when you did that, this is how I felt. He's like, well, you shouldn't feel that way. That's not what I meant. All I was saying was, and then he'll explain, and I'll say, but do you realize, number one, you don't get to tell me how I should or shouldn't feel.
Right.
Number
Right.
two, if you said this to me, same thing, in a little bit of a different way, do you see the difference?
Right.
Do you see how this is offensive?
Right. One's charged, one's not.
That.
Yes.
And this is explaining, hold on, I just need a second. Rather than whatever it is you said that feels dismissive to me.
Right.
What you're trying to do is create space so you can have a second to catch up. When what I felt was you wanted me out of the way.
Right.
Those
Turned
are
off,
two
shut up.
for sure.
Yeah.
Those are two
Removed.
very different
Right.
conversations,
Very
very
different.
different messages, but it gets to the same point. So it isn't even, and I don't know if this is just my lot in life. I don't know if this is what women do with their husbands. I don't know. Again, like I feel like I have to be so careful because I don't want to be monitoring other people's behavior. That's not my job. But it feels like more of a teaching moment. You're not trying to hurt my feelings, but you are. Here's a way you could say what you need to say that would not hurt my feelings.
Well, I feel like you are just, I suppose it's a teaching moment, but it's also being able to communicate. This is appropriate, like when you're dealing with me, right? Me as a unique
Sure.
person. Joe Schmo might not have the same triggers as me.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I have this experience and these feelings, these charged feelings
For
around
sure.
that experience, which causes this reaction.
Yep.
And I want you to understand why I might feel the way I do.
That makes me feel very better. So
Right?
I'm not monitoring his behavior,
Right. But you're
I'm
explaining
explaining mine.
yourself.
Your own
Right.
needs,
Your-
your own
yes, your
growth
own
and
uniqueness.
understanding.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
And that's really important.
Absolutely.
And if he has that context, right? Well, I say that to so-and-so all the time, and that really
Yeah.
isn't no problem for that person.
Yes.
Why would it be a problem for you? Well, let me tell you.
Right.
Let me tell you why that hurts me
Right.
Right.
For sure.
or makes me angry
Or yeah, whatever. Fill in the blank.
right.
Right. That feels much better than monitoring other people's behavior because that doesn't feel good.
No.
I can barely monitor my own.
Right. So
Not going to be in charge of everybody.
it's like a job and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole full-time job. That's for dang sure.
I think it is so powerful to know and to be at a place where you have learned what you need and you're able to express it.
Boy,
And
that's
sometimes,
so true.
even when it comes out in an unhealthy way,
It's
Right.
hard.
It
it's
is
hard.
yeah.
It is
For sure.
hard.
For sure.
But we can't put that cape on all the time. But when we
Right.
do, that is powerful.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Absolutely.
I also think, to your point, Marcy, there's something to be said for, like, okay, we are all human, and do you think it's the last time you're going to tuck shit into your pocket and
No.
then explode
No,
about 5
I'm sure
things?
not.
Or, I'm going to react and get real angry and big when, like, I could have been more detached. Like, we're all human, so
Absolutely.
our reactions for a purpose. But there's also the opportunity to reflect, right? And then to come back and say, you know what, when I did that, I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared for, I didn't realize how, right? I'm sorry that I did that, and let me express or let me explain at this point to be able to like make the ground even again.
That is really interesting.
It is.
And I have noticed that when I have that kind of conversation with Josh and the ground is even again, then we're not having regular arguments.
Right.
Right. I don't want any, we don't fight a lot, but it does seem to go in
There's
cycles,
cycles,
right?
sure.
Themes.
Like, absolutely.
Right. There's
Where
themes.
that thing or two keeps coming up and we keep stepping in it. Right. But when we get to that place where it's, I'm sorry, I know that you're not trying to be hurtful, and I'm not trying to think that you are just trying to hurt me.
Right.
So we need to get past all of that and figure out what we're communicating, how we're communicating, why it's a trigger, so that we both can understand where the other person is coming from, and learn a new way to communicate about that particular issue, so that we're not having this happen all the time.
Right. And
it's almost magical.
And
really.
funny enough, like they build on one another.
Absolutely.
So he says something to trigger you. You respond in a certain way because you've been triggered. Well, fuck, now all of a sudden he's triggered.
Right.
And he responds.
You're mad at me? No, I'm mad at you.
Right. And then it escalates.
You can't
right?
be mad at me.
Everybody's
I'm
triggered.
the one who's mad here.
Right.
And then everyone's
Everybody's
emptying
upset.
their pockets and what is happening? Whew. There's a lot going
Right.
on.
So many experiences that I'm just going to pull out at you now. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Can't even keep them straight. Right. So it's not even like it's one hurt feeling or one upsetness, because they
No.
build on one
They
another.
do.
And it's hard to dismantle those things when they
Absolutely.
get that far.
Right, exactly. And when you've been in relationship for a long
1,000
time,
years,
1,000 years, and during that period of time,
Feels
you're
that way
also
sometimes.
growing and learning, how you responded a million years ago
Right.
is going to be different than how you respond
For sure.
now, because you've grown and become aware of what you need and what you need at this point in time,
Right.
which is different.
Right.
So your response may be different than it was 20 years ago and what he remembers from 20 years ago,
Yes.
which is just
Yeah.
one more
Also,
complication.
another
sure.
thing. Here's another complication, and I don't want to continually bring it up, but it fits right into this conversation. So, recently, I have noticed in the last 2 or 3 days that I get really agitated really quickly, more so than normal about things. I get triggered faster. I jump to conclusions faster, and I'm realizing that, and I've sparked arguments. Like, he's like, slow down. Like, I'm not even really sure what just happened. And then I stand back and I'm like, I don't 100% know what just happened either, but my body's under stress, and I am really quick to like fall into patterns that I thought that I had tackled. Like, I find myself reacting in ways that I've overcome already. But because I'm under stress, my physical body is under stress, because I'm
You're
still
healing
recovering.
from surgery.
right?
Yeah.
I'm tired, right? My hormones are like kind of fucked up a little bit. I feel like my adrenal system
Yeah.
is like pushing everything out, and I find myself like, I did not need to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I jumped to a conclusion, I freaked out, and that it wasn't really even necessary.
Right.
Well, but you think about just the words, right? The fight or flight.
That's what my body's
That's what your
in.
body
It
is
Yes,
doing.
absolutely.
And so, yeah, we're going to revert
So you're
to
already
those
right there.
unconscious reactions. Right,
For sure.
exactly.
I am. And when I apologized today, that's the grace he gave me,
Yeah. Oh, how wonderful.
which is
That is beautiful.
really
Thanks
good.
for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I know I was a
I
dick.
haven't been my
I'm
best
sorry.
self.
Well, either one. I mean, you could say either one of those things. Your sounds so much better. Mine goes right to the point. So I know I was a dick, and I'm sorry. And I think I'm like just overwhelmed. I think my system is overwhelmed.
Right. Right.
So there's that too, right? There's all sorts of things.
For sure.
And then I
That's
think about
interesting.
all the ways, all the things that we don't know are
That.
happening with others,
Yes.
and why they aren't able to be the little duck above the water even when they're paddling, right?
Yes.
Because there's so many other things happening in all of our lives.
1,000%. You have no idea. I say, I think about it often that every single person that you meet has a story that you have no concept of.
For sure.
Absolutely.
None. So you have to kind of give some grace sometimes for some of that.
And sometimes you have to ask for some grace,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
That's not easy to do either.
No,
No.
it's not. Like today.
Right. But I have found that when I ask for it, it's given freely.
Agreed.
In a humble way, right?
Absolutely. Not in a, fine, I'll hold this over you next week.
Right.
But in a,
Right.
I can see that you're not your normal self.
Right.
And when
And
we're
I can
vulnerable,
understand why.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Marcy.
I was just going to say, and when we're vulnerable and can say, I'm not in my best place, or this is happening, or not even giving details, but for whatever you can say, like
sure.
being vulnerable with others, that's huge. And just think, if we exhibit that behavior and then others become vulnerable with us, and how that just snowballs.
Right. That's
And
compassion.
what a
Right.
grace-filled, compassionate world. Gosh,
Agree.
I love that place.
Right.
That's worth it.
It's better
That's
for
worth
everyone.
it.
There it is, Lisa. All right. I think we'll end it on that note. Because that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's worth it.
it is worth it.
So, Mind Garden Media, thank you so much, Todd, for always putting together our podcast and wrapping it up in a nice little bow, handing it back on a platter. I don't know. I'm sure it's agony most of the time, but it doesn't appear that way from this side. So thank you for that.
You're like a duck
He is like a
gliding
duck.
across the pond.
He's like an ice cube.
With a cape on.
He's like an ice cube. Don't kick him under the fridge. That might be a little inside joke.
So thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you for following along. Thank you, Marcy, for not missing us, even though you're missing us.
Oh, well, I'm not going to miss you for this long.
No.
Ever again.
Promise.
Right.
Ever.
Promise.
Right. It has been a bit. So thank you to our listeners. If you're liking these podcasts, please do like, share, smash all the buttons, do all the things, and follow
see you
along.
soon.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. Till next time then.
Bye.
Bye.
Toodaloo.